Hello everyone, welcome to Grow Your Future with Luxland. I am Zar, CEO of Luxland Investments. Today we are joined by Mark, the Predator of Property.
The Property Predator, yeah.
Jade, Queen Entrepreneur.
Hey guys.
How are you?
How are you?
Good.
I'm going to open up with Jade's latest article, The Powerful Entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
What a cracker article.
Very good article, yeah. It's on our Luxland website as well if everyone wants to check it out.
So many good points.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So for you guys listening, jump on our website and it's the latest article under our news tab, and you'll be able to find the very, very, very good article by Jade on entrepreneurship with some really good points in there. So good for people looking at starting a business, are in business. A lot of truth behind it, you know, because I think entrepreneurship is a cool sort of status that people use these days, and people don't actually really know or understand what it's actually about, because, you know, I've done it for 10 years, and I'll tell you what, like, it's much easier getting a job.
I think I think the word entrepreneur is sexy and, you know, mysterious and powerful, but
well, if you get it right, it definitely is sexy and it's very glamorous, and I think it's something that everyone should give a crack. But you know, but
I think people really need to understand what goes into being an entrepreneur before they embark on that career, and if it's really for them. And it's okay if it's not for you. It's absolutely okay. I really, truly believe, and upon writing that article this week and talking to so many entrepreneurs and yourself, Zahir, an entrepreneur, you know, they're born into that trait. So I think have a think about if it's something that you really want to do, and if it's something that you can develop into.
So you're saying you think people are born into it rather than sort of working into it and training for it?
Not completely. I don't think people are completely just, if you are not born an entrepreneur, then you're not one. I don't think that's a matter of fact. I think a lot of the traits of an entrepreneur come from when you were younger. The tenacity, the big picture thinking. It's more than just being told to think big and reading articles and books. It's your natural abilities to do that. And I think building up resilience as a child and as a teenager and as a young adult, and all of those experiences, you know, overcoming major adversity, I think people with a greater resilience would be more natural at being an entrepreneur. But definitely, I mean, when I wrote that article, a lot of those traits, if I can say, I was almost like I was writing about you. Everything in that article was about Zar Azmi.
Well, I felt it, and that's why, you know, like I've printed it out in front of me, and there's so many cool points in here which speak the truth, like the opportunity cost and the vision, and being, you know, having laser focus, and, you know, spending money to make money, you know. And I find that, you know, the employee mindset is to hoard money, is to save, you know, and to try and, you know, almost contract in a way rather than expand. And so many good points. So guys, jump onto our website, have a look at Jade's latest article. But today, what are we talking about, Mark?
Well, on the back of entrepreneurship, big profits, lower risk, and cutting the stress. It's pretty much, I guess, that right there is the equation to success, really, you know, in not just financially, but emotionally, mentally as well.
But sometimes it's the opposite, isn't it? Sometimes it's small profits, high risk, and plenty of stress, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's probably more
Most
of that.
The majority of people go through that. I mean, I've been through that.
Every day.
So our goal is for bigger profits, lower risk, and cutting the stress.
Of course, because like you just said, the opposite is happening every single day. It's not like it's hard to achieve that. You know, small results.
It's a
high
challenge,
risk, and all the stress. So many ways to make money, with both of you being heavily involved in real estate and business, why is real estate for both of you your long-term vision?
Well, it was never the original plan for us, you know. Like, we always knew that property was a long-term sort of goal of ours, because I can't even remember, but who gave me the advice, but I always wanted to start my own business. In my mid-20s, I always wanted to start my own business and do my own thing. And in my early 20s, I was running nightclubs, and I was pretty much given free rein to run those businesses, which gave me a lot of experience in entrepreneurship, because I got to treat them as my own, and then I eventually went and opened my own. But before I went and opened my own nightclub, what I did was I bought a couple of properties, and I was always told, buy property first before you do anything, because if anything stuffs up with your businesses, like, your plan B is your properties. And you know what? Like, that's actually what happened. I failed my first business. I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if it wasn't for my properties, I probably would have gone bankrupt. You know, like, I had those properties to fall back on, which were growing year on year, making me, you know, fantastic money, compounding in growth. And then, you know, I was able to just fall back on those properties as backup. So, you know, like, getting back on point with, you know, was it my first choice over business? It was just by luck and chance, I guess, that I made that right decision upon some good advice of, you know, some mentors that I had, you know, working in nightclubs. And, you know, so I was just lucky that I made that choice, because if it was the other way around, I really don't think I would be here. It would have really set me back, and I probably would have had to go back into the workforce and, you know, start from scratch.
Would you have had a smaller mindset if you didn't choose property first, do you think?
I think so, because I think property teaches you to think big, right? And you get to have that growth mindset, and you get to expand. And, you know, with the smaller transactions, for example, through the businesses that I've been involved with, if I was only involved in those businesses, then I think I wouldn't have this type of mindset to think big. Property enables you to think big, because you're using other people's money, whether it be private investment or the bank's money. You're able to, for example, get into a property that's worth, say, $1 million for $100,000. You know what I mean?
That's right.
You only really need to come up with $100,000, but you're playing with a $1 million number. So, you know, like, it's easy to think big when you're in property, but when you're in just the business space, so for example, you know, I've had supplement stores before, or hair salons. The transactions are so small, it's very easy to get caught up in, you know, in those smaller transactions.
I think for me, real estate being first choice over business for the long term, I think this has got to do with corporate as well. I think I have a really successful corporate career, and I think the long term, the end game is always real estate though. I think no matter what, it's over and above anything and everything that we do, and the reason for everything that we do, every business decision that we make these days is about real estate, and there's nothing else to it. You know, it's about the decisions on where you park your money from wherever you're making your money, you know, through a corporate job or a business, retail business or whatever that might be. Real estate is always the last conversation.
I find as well that when you're involved, say, in the smaller transactions of a business every single day, being a retail front and whatnot, you do get sucked into working in the business rather than on the business, whereas property has probably both given you guys that elevated mindset and view to look on as a what they say, a helicopter view, looking down on it all. You know, like, otherwise you'd be continually, you know, we haven't made budget this week. You know, I know with you guys running the salon, like, there are some weeks it's up and it's down. And imagine if that was your be all and end all, for example, of one of your businesses that you guys have, you'd be all over the shop. You know what I mean?
I think for me, when it's so easy for me personally to get caught up in a lot of things, and I'm not perfect. I like, you know, majority of the time I do think big picture, and that's why I've been able to progress like I have. But I do get caught up in the smaller things, and Zara's so big picture, and he operates on a big scale, and every decision he makes is always big picture. So I get pulled out of those smaller those little things a
That
lot
can eat you up a
more,
little bit more,
than the
yeah.
other way around. Yeah, definitely.
But then it also has its flaws because I don't understand, or I don't have that sometimes that empathy to the smaller transactions. So when I do talk to my staff about little problems with dealing with clients or in a retail environment, I just don't get it. Like, I don't understand it. And I come from that environment. Like, originally, that's why those businesses are there, because I come from that environment. But because I've been in property for so long now, and working on the bigger numbers, when I get presented these problems, I actually don't see them as problems. I just look at them and go, well, you're arguing over $100. You know what I mean?
I think this is very similar. These traits are very similar to, Elon Musk, for example, someone that I really do admire and look up to, and Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is a scrappy operator. He's messy. He doesn't get down into the detail. He can't do the smaller things that.
It's like almost in a way more of a creative, isn't he?
Yeah, he can only operate big picture. His skill set doesn't lie elsewhere. So obviously he brings on people that can complement that.
Yep.
That weakness. And the same with Elon Musk. He's a mess of an operator, but the way his mind thinks is, everything that I wrote about, and that's the most important thing, I think.
That's actually really interesting, like finding out about those two guys there, being complete messes when it comes to the day-to-day strategies, but it very interesting.
And difficult to work with, apparently, both of them.
And they just said the same thing about Steve Jobs as well. It's all these big players where they're not worried about the intricate stuff. They're worried about what the...
Well, it's not going to make you millions, right?
Exactly.
Like, it's not going to make you millions. Like, people who are listening to this podcast, obviously they want to grow their future. They don't want to just make, like a couple of $1,000 a week and take home $100,000 a year. You know what I mean? These guys, they want to be rich. So, and the only way you're going to be rich is if you do have someone on your team thinking big picture, thinking long term, doing those big transactions, getting experience in dealing with the bigger numbers, because that's what's going to propel you forward. Like when we had the supplement stores, for example, like just having one or two, it's not worth it. You really do need to have 50, worldwide minimum, right? And you need to think that big. You can't just think, okay, I'm just going to take home a decent wage at the end of the week. No, you've got to think, what is your 10-year plan? What is your 20-year plan? And with property, fortunately, you can do that. You can make really, really good money in property. Look at 90% of the world's millionaires all hold their wealth in real estate, right? Most people who work in high-paid professions and that do quite well at the end of their careers park their money in real estate. And a lot of them jump into property as their next career afterwards. So, there's a trend there. You look at all the celebrities, for example, they all park their money in real estate if they're smart. Yeah. So that, for us, it's like the businesses have always been there to help with cash flow, for serviceability, for the property loans, right? But acquiring more assets has always been key for us. And where it started with me was when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was 16. So that taught me a conditioning in the mind to go out, buy as many assets as you can, whether it be a business or property. But Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, focuses more on property. So it was conditioned in my head to buy property straight away. And that's why, when I had enough for a deposit, when I had the serviceability to support the loans, I went out and I took the plunge. And it was the best thing I ever did. Like, I made $110,000 or $120,000 from my first property in profit in the first year. Wow. You know what I mean? So that enabled me to give me a very, very strong backbone to go and start my first business, right? I think I had 2 properties before I started my first business. And I failed at that first business. I tipped in hundreds of thousands of dollars, then I lost it all, right? But I wasn't that fazed by it because I had the backup of the properties growing year on year.
Of course, that's right, yeah.
I think that's, lesson in disguise is, yes, property is the end game. It's the last conversation that we have, and it surrounds every decision that we make, and it's tried and tested, and it works. And it allows you to go out there and do other things if you want to. You can go and try try your luck with a cash